the other night when Todd Carney pagged him around a boxing ring. But this is not the signing to get you over the line. And I don't care how Warrington fans dress it up. This is not an augmentation of what you previously had. He's almost too similar, really, to what else will be going on around him in some respects. Where Sandow had that spark and could do that really surprising thing. I think you know more what you're getting with Kev Brown, and he's a good, solid 7 out of 10 pro. But he's not the one that makes it your year for me.
They need to look elsewhere for that to be the factor, the key factor. I think there's a lot of other things that could go right for Warrington that'll push them over the line.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the thing that will push them over the line. No. But I don't think it puts them further behind for next year. But I'm not sure that it's the right. It's not sure it's the way I would have gone. But then again, maybe the year after that, they're going to throw loads of money at someone who might be off contract, like a George Williams.
You never know what this year will mean in terms of the development of somebody like Declan Patton as well.
Or Morgan Smith.
Precisely. Yeah. So there's room within there for someone to do well. But it raised an eyebrow with me, but only in terms of it kind of being a stopgap signing.
Shall we move on to our next block of questions? You want to take it away?
Fat Boy Rob, the Castleford Tigers fan, and also a friend of mine on Facebook, I hasten to add. He got in touch with a few, and so hello Rob, and thank you for your contribution.
The last one we've got listed here is the first and the last. Really highlight just how much of a Castleford fan he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first question. Apart from the obvious brackets, Zach Hardacre, what is the best signing of the off-season now? I'm finding it hard to look beyond Zach Hardacre, really. I think that's a tremendous signing for Castleford. If he produces what he was producing a year ago for Leeds, or 18 months ago for Leeds,
I think there's an if there, though, isn't there?
Signing.
I think that's the thing. There is an if there. He
wasn't producing it for Leeds because things were going on.
It's a good fit for him in terms of Darryl Powell knows him well, maybe can support him in a way that a more distant coach maybe hasn't been able to, or something. But let's not mess around with it. It didn't work out for him in the NRL. No one wanted to offer him a longer term deal there, and he didn't feel comfortable there either. Yeah. He's got a lot of growing up to do, or maturing to do, or looking after himself to do off the pitch that clearly has affected his on the pitch situation and affected his ability to be in the right place at the right time for his team. You think about the England mishaps, you think about the various off-field or on-field but not game-related issues that have come across him.
But then when he was making those off-field indiscretions, he was still playing well. In terms of his quality, that didn't affect it, did it?
Yeah, but there's obviously maybe been a lag into that, but he's not found himself in the best environments, and I still don't know enough that it's that nailed on a great deal. I think he's a greatly able player, and I hope he does really well for Castleford. I'd go with someone who I think hasn't missed a beat, even though he's not been first choice where he's been.
If you say Joe Burgess, I'm going to cry.
No, I'm going to say Sam Williams.
Yes, that is a good side.
For Wakefield. Yeah. I think Canberra didn't lose a step when he was in the side last year. Last time he was over here for Catalan, he was a difference maker. And I really think there's a chance for him to be that for Wakefield. They're going to rely on the pack being strong, but they've brought in a lot of bodies there at least. Yeah. Maybe this quality has dipped from what it was at last year.
Well, there'll always be someone. They won't be missing, will they?
Exactly, was the problem last year, was depth when you had like Scruton and Anderson and several other forwards all out at the same time. But the other ones that came to mind, Glenn Stewart for Lee, I think that was a big splash signing and a high calibre signing.
Yeah, that's upper echelon, isn't it?
Yeah, I also think St Helens have recruited well this season. They've addressed a need in the centres, a position where they needed a bit of depth because Mark Percival's often doesn't play a full season, no matter how his skillful he is. He's young, he's still growing, still developing, all that. And Peyru wasn't really the answer. Turner's gone. I would say maybe Walsh is a better player on his day than Matty Smith, but I think they've got a much more solid leader on the field in Matty Smith, and they've gone from just having those two really brilliant prop forwards to having a stable of very, very high calibre front row on that squad, and there won't be any let up at all, and in that regard, so I think I'm impressed with Saints.
Saints look good
business as well, and like Tommy Lee comes in as a player who can fit in a lot of positions and a lot of experience, and seemed to be quite a good person around the Salford team when he was on the field. So I think that'll help there as well. I think they've recruited quite well across the board. But the best signing for me is Williams at Wakefield.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, Rob goes on to say, this is one for you, Mark. If you could replace the seats with standing at one end of the DW to help the atmosphere, would you? Do you think it would help the atmosphere?
Well, I'm not sure it would at the DW. The stands are too big for 8 out of the 10 games. Sort of, 80% of our games, the stands are too big for it. You know, you've got your World Club game, and then Leeds, Saints, Warrington. Every other game, the stadium's too big, and it would still be too big if there was a standing section. And because the stands are so large, the noise sort of dissipates a lot easier than it does in, say, the standing sections under the tin roof at Wakefield or the closed-in stands at Cass or what have you. Even though I do like standing sections, so I wouldn't go against it. I just don't think it would make a difference to the atmosphere, though.
I think holistically,
and I'm getting older, so sitting down for most
you like a bit of sit down, don't you?
It
gives you a chance to recover between screaming. I think holistically the DW is poorly designed, to be honest. Not in terms of facilities and getting there. I think it's a good enough stadium. But I'm glad you said that you thought the stands were too big. If I'd been doing it, and I'm not an architect, I would have thought that you would get a better atmosphere if the stands were, say, 30% shorter, or not as tall, but you had corners. And it would keep everything in, so a bit more Langtree-y than anything else. And I know that Saints fans complain that they don't really have an atmosphere there, but that was my thought, was that DW is very tall and it's impressive, but I think you lose a lot out the corners.
Oh, of course, no, I completely agree. Speaking of architects, Emma got me one of my presents, like a sort of jokey one, was a mug that, that keep calm and carry on stuff, that. But it said, I can't keep calm because I'm a Wigan fan. It said on it.
That was lovely. You cannot keep calm.
Nope.
There you go. Okay, next one from Fat Boy Rob. What's the best and worst away shirt? Ooh.
Hull FC's.
What, best or worst?
Worst.
Oh, do behave. It's
the yellow one.
Amazing. That's incredible. They're going to sell a ton of them to kids.
Yeah, well, like we did last year, our great one. It didn't make it a great shirt, though.
It's a great move. No, it's dead sensible. I actually prefer the colour out because I knew you were going to bring up your lot. Yours was more a lime green. This is like high-vis yellow. I don't mind that. I quite like that one. It's not my favourite, but it's
my least favourite.
My least favourite is the Wakefield away kit.
I don't like that either.
I find it a bit tepid,
and I don't really understand what the colours meant to be doing.
The home strip.
Yeah,
the home kit is my favourite of the home kits. My favourite away shirt is Cattle and Dragons, Mark.
Yeah, I like Wigan's. I mean, it's getting some flack because everyone hates Wigan, so let's hate on everything they do. But I like it, and I bought it and like it, and I'm going to wear it.
The away shirt, is that the purple checkered one?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I like it more than the home shirt. For Rob's benefit, I'm not over keen on either Cass shirt.
Oh, see, I think the Cass ones were just like middle of the road. They were they were safe choices, but they'll sell a load of.
There were no improvements on the ones from the last couple of years.
They were very, very similar, weren't they?
So, but anyway, go on. The Catalan shirt.
It's got a big fuck off dragon on it, man.
I like it.
It looks ace. Yeah, that's my favourite. Definitely.
And it's a little bit more. It seems a little bit more okay for an adult to wear than the Bradford one with the sort of flaming bull from a couple of years ago. Do you know what I mean? And we said
it's okay
to see an adult walking around in that kind of looks a bit weird. Just like our one with the big castle in it as well.
Apart from on game day, is it ever really okay just to be walking about in one?
I fucking do it all the time.
Yeah, but like you rock up in like you've got your Wigan hoodie on and stuff. Yeah. There's ways of doing it. I wouldn't necessarily go out in just.
In the summer, I walk around in a Wigan shirt happily.
I think I don't know. I always feel a bit kind of
self-conscious.
No, I suppose it's like I don't know.
But I'm not really grown up. You've got a kid.
Oh yeah, but that's
you're more of a grown up than me.
I don't know.
Yeah.
By your standards, there's plenty of people in this world that would argue that you are far more of a grown up than I am. Speaking of people who aren't grown ups, Rob's final question is: on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a cunt is Dennis Solomona? How much of a cunt do you think Dennis Solomona is, Mark? Because I've got a pretty... like, this whole Dennis Solomona thing has teed me off a little bit. Not so much in terms of his actions, because fuck him, but in terms of, like, rugby league's response to it and how petulant we've been about something. But I don't want to get fuming about it before you've had, like... what do you think of it?
Well, I think... he's off the SLP Christmas card list.
Big time.
But... we don't go getting him involved in the chase for our awards, and then he goes and does this to the sport. But
well, yeah, that would be contriving to take it very personally, wouldn't it?
He's only a symptom of a much bigger problem, though.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Not a bigger problem just in our sport. It's in the whole world. The culture of like greed and individual gain and all that sort of stuff. And so many people will say you can't blame him for looking out for himself and all that sort of stuff. And then you'll have the totally embittered loyalists sort of saying, but Cass saved his career pretty much. He was on the scrap heap at London. No one else was looking at him, and Cass gave him this opportunity. And to be honest, he scored some flashy tries and did some good stuff, but a lot of it was Luke Gale throwing him good ball and Jake Webster giving him good ball.
I'm saying.
They took a chance on him and he's shown them no loyalty, and he's done it in such a way that they don't get anything back, because he was like, well, they've made a bid for me and you're not going to accept it, so I'm going to go and take it into my own hands and all that sort of stuff. But it's the problem. It's the bigger problem of society. It's the fact that money rules so much, and we're so dulled to it now that we accept it too much. And it's not even a question really of money or loyalty, or it's certainly not league versus union.
No,
because we used to take their players when we could pay them and they couldn't. I mean, the greatest of all time, came to play rugby league because someone threw a silly amount of money at him compared to what he would have been able to earn down the pit in Cardiff. So that's not what it's about for me.
No, there'll always be that overlap and that osmosis between the two codes.
There's a lot of snide to it in the way it's been gone about, and I don't like that.
But he's handled it in absolutely the worst possible way, in a way that demonstrates ingratitude and almost a kind of... he's almost like smirking at the Castleford fans. Now, the way in which some people in certain quarters of social media have gone after his family, his missus, whatever you may think of that lass, is entirely out of order.
Not a bad-looking lady.
Not a bad-looking lady, but that she's been called into question and things like that, and it's just entirely unnecessary.
Let's be fair. She sells things by having no clothes on.
Yeah, fair play to the girl though. She's not breaking any laws. No problem with that. What I have a problem with is the fact that people were going after them and abusing people. And at the end of the day, Dennis Solomona needs to live and die by his choices, but his family and his brother and his missus do not in any circumstance deserve to get the pelters that they were getting from certain quarters of Castleford fans, and it smacks of sour grapes. Now, do I think that Dennis Solomona is a loss to Castleford Tigers Rugby League? Not in the fucking least, mate. Because as you alluded to, yes, he might have set a try-scoring record, but a lot of that work was being done...
Come on, he's a loss.
No, I don't think he is. I think there's plenty of wingers floating around out there who, with a bit of tutelage from Darryl Powell, and in that left edge, would have done exactly the same thing. And I think to say that Dennis Solomona... No, I know you can wince at me, but I honestly, I think there's plenty of people out there who could have, with a bit of training... as professional rugby league, come in and done that.
I don't think anyone else would have won them any more games than he did, any less games than he won them.
He's a talented
but they might not have scored some of the tries he scored.
He's a talented athlete. Has rugby league stopped operating as a result of him going? No, of course it hasn't. It's going to carry on. The other problem I have with this is the way that we, or certain quarters of rugby league fandom, have reacted with this kind of stamping feet attitude to him crossing codes. It happens both ways, and the worry I have is when people say, we need to shore things up, and what's this going to do for the sport, and how are we going to grow the sport if people like Dennis Solomona are going to go to rugby union? And I've almost come around, I was lying in bed thinking about it, and I've almost got to the point where I think, well, is rugby league ever going to grow to the point where it's the second favourite sport of the nation? And I don't think it is. And I think what we need to do is change the way we look at our sport and our wonderful product, in that we're members of a really exclusive club of people who have access to this incredible thing. And maybe it isn't going to grow beyond, the M62 and then some growing emerging nations, things like that. But maybe that's okay, because